So, welcome everyone. Lovely to see you. So, today our topic is, and I get asked this question a lot, and it comes up in most likely every session that I work with clients. This topic of the sleep issues, sleep problems come up. So that's what I want to talk about today. So we know that sleep problems, sleep issues, even the sleep, the diagnosed sleep issues like narcolepsy and sleep apnea, a lot of these sleep disorders are all come under the heading of neuroplastic. So, which means there's nothing structurally damaged, there's nothing wrong in the part of the brain that controls our sleep, but the brain is what's in play, the brain. That's why it's neuroplastic, because the brain is the main driver for our sleep. Okay. So the first question I wanted to ask everyone, and you can just unmute if you'd like to pop your answers in. It's easier than in the chats for me. What sleep issues are some of you facing or have faced or would like to improve on? Anyone? So you're all great sleepers. You all sleep really well. Sleep like a baby.
So
Laurel?
for me, I have issues some nights with waking up and I don't know, like my adrenaline will get going a bit and like my brain, I'll just like get thinking. And then it might take me like an hour or two to fall back to sleep.
Goodness, goodness. And how does that feel?
Um, so I
What do
mean,
you?
sometimes I'll go through a couple weeks where it's just like really bad, and then I'll have some weeks that it's better. It kind of cycles
Mm-hmm,
like that. Some things I
mm-hmm.
try, like praying.
Yes,
Um, and
good.
also when I had it really bad, I memorized a psalm, and so I'll say that. And for me, I
Mm-hmm.
visualize it, so that
Yeah,
helps me a
lovely.
lot.
Yeah,
If I can try to
lovely.
focus on, something besides like all the thoughts going on in my head,
Mm-hmm.
those things
And
help. And also sometimes I do breathing exercises that can sometimes help.
yes, yeah,
Like
wonderful. I'm glad.
the one that really helps me a lot is the 478.
Yes, yeah, good, good, excellent. So, would you say that's working consistently for you using the visualization with this memorized psalm or the 478 breathing? They're working for you consistently, and do you find that you can automatically go to those?
I wouldn't say that they do work sometimes, but I would say not all the time. Maybe like 60% of the time, I would say.
Okay, that's pretty good. You happy with that?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And when it's not working for you, how do you respond? How do you feel?
Sometimes I'll get up and just come out and sit in the living room and just kind of relax, maybe read a little bit in a book
Hmm.
or sometimes I'll do like a body scan. Um, and then sometimes if I'm not able to sleep well, then like the next day I'll just be really tired and not be able to do
Yes.
very much.
Yeah, and how do you feel about that when it affects you the next day?
Mm,
Do you get frustrated or
yes.
because
Uh,
you? Do you have to
Yeah,
cancel?
I try not to let it frustrate me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of times I'll just say, it's okay, I'll sleep better tonight, or because so a lot of times it'll go off and on. Like one night I won't sleep great, and then the next night I will. So I try to not get too frustrated or aggravated about it
That's
because that just
good. And it
seems to
sounds
make it
like
worse.
that's right. And it sounds like
Yeah,
you're using some compassionate self-talk there when
yeah.
you do get frustrated. Yeah. So these are all great tools that you're using. Really great. So congratulations for that. And anyone else? Are there any um because whatever, you're sharing, other people are going to learn from, not just in this group, but people out there in YouTube land. Um, so is there anything else that you're using that you do that you found helpful? Oh, okay. Okay. So the one thing to remember, so sometimes the education part can help us with sleep. So one thing to always remember is that the brain and the body knows how to sleep. It's not something that we have to remember to do, to teach ourselves to do. Okay. If we did, my goodness, we would all be in such a mess, wouldn't we? If we had to remember. So, sleep and breathing are the two main things that the brain just does automatically for us. We don't have to remember to do it. Imagine if we had to remember to breathe. We just wouldn't be around for very long, would we? So the brain's automatically doing it. But what happens? Certain things get in the way of us sleeping well, as well as having some breathing challenges. But for sleep, it's this hyper arousal of the nervous system is what is usually in play when we're having sleep issues. So, Laurel, you were saying there's those times where you wake up and you're awake for an hour and you notice that adrenaline dump. Right? This is the brain in hyperarousal. So if we can be aware of that and have some tools, have some strategies in place to help the nervous system to regulate again, to come out of that hyperarousal state, sleep is going to be not so much of a problem for us. Okay. So we all know how to sleep, we know what to do. We just need to get out of the way. Okay. By helping our nervous system out of this hyperarousal. Is everybody familiar with the fight, flight, freeze response of the nervous system and how the hyper arousal part of the nervous system is very different? Yeah. Hyperarousal part of the nervous system is like there's a bear in your room and you are terrified. Okay. And we know that there's not a bear in our room when we're trying to sleep, but the brain, for some reason, switches that hyperarousal. There's a bear right outside the cave. You better stay awake because it might come in and attack you. So that's what's happening. And it's like small children, who 100% feel and believe there's a monster under their bed. And it doesn't matter what you say to them, how you try to soothe them, they've got to come and hop in with you to feel safe. They need to feel 100% safe. So this is what's happening when we're not sleeping. Okay, something will trigger a hyperarousal state in the brain. Now, what happens when we are sleeping? What's actually happening whilst we're sleeping? It's thank goodness that we can sleep, okay? Because you think about your day to day, how many gazillions of thoughts that you have throughout the day and what you do throughout the day. And if we didn't have that break, if we weren't able to completely shut down and sleep for that 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever we need, some people only need 5 hours and they feel rested and okay, right? Imagine what we would be like. We would just be like zombies, wouldn't we? Wouldn't function very well in the world. So sleep is so important. It gives us a break from what we put ourselves through throughout the day. It helps us to process all the experiences, the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, everything that we have experienced throughout the day. The brain is filing that away. So it's like your computer. You close it down at night, shut it down, close it up, but in the background, it's doing stuff, right? It's filing away, it's processing, it's sorting things, it's updating things, all of that's happening. Exactly the same thing happens with us while we're sleeping. The brain's filing everything away. Where does this file go? Where does this one go? Where does this one go? And it's doing that while we're resting. And that's why we dream. Our dreams are about the brain trying to file something away and it's not quite sure where to put it. So that's where dreams come from. Okay. That's why our dreams are so strange and they don't make any sense sometimes. And while we have repetitive dreams, I had this repetitive dreams for a long time until I sat down and did some work on it with another practitioner where I was always lost. I'd get lost. I'm lost driving. I'm lost at the airport. I'm lost going for a walk. I'm just getting lost all the time. And my poor brain didn't know where to file that away because the information was there, all the proofs were there of me getting lost and the meaning that I was holding about that. But it just needed some help. So I did some memory work, Laura, we were talking about earlier, and help my brain to process that. And I no longer have those dreams now. The brain knows what to do about it. So we can help our brains by doing the memory work. We can help our dreams. Okay, so any questions about this hyperarousal state? Good. So there's 4 parts to the hyperarousal state. I'm sure all of you can relate to this. And Laurel, you just mentioned some yourself. So we know when we're not sleeping, we can check in on these 4 things with ourselves and ask ourselves, oh, is that what's happening? Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening? And then you can use one of your strategies, one of your tools to help the brain process that information so you can go back off to sleep. So one of them is emotional. So if we're having some big emotional things going on in our life, that's going to keep us awake at night. That's going to be keeping us in this hyper aroused state and be signaling danger. So neuroplastic is always about the brain predicting and the brain protecting us. Okay, so if we have some big emotional things going on in our life, the brain will want to protect us by keeping us up at night and helping us to process that because we haven't process it through the day. Okay, so that's why it's really important to process your emotions as they come up throughout the day, and you will sleep a lot better if you can use your tools and do them in the heat of the moment is what I've learned is the key. Just do them right then and there. That's your window of opportunity to rewire that in your brain if you're having some kind of big emotional experience. Okay. So emotional can also be, I mean, how many of you, especially with children, you'll see it. And my granddaughter, just over the weekend, she's had her birthday party. Well, of course, she was so excited, she couldn't sleep, could she? And I've experienced that many times when I've been really looking forward to something, excited about something, and I don't sleep. And the amazing thing is, though, that adrenaline just keeps me going throughout the day. But then at the end of the day, I might have to have a big rest because I haven't had much sleep through the night. So we can all relate to that, and again, that's emotions playing a big part there, right? So all those excitable emotions can keep you awake because the adrenaline's surging, or you can be worried. I can remember so many sleepless nights waiting up for my children to come home at night when they were teenagers and adolescents. I'd just lie there wide awake until they entered the door. As soon as I heard the door close, off to sleep I'd go, right? So when we're worried um, and grieving, how many times have you not been able to sleep when you're deep in grief? Right? Many times I've had to get up and pace the floors and do all kinds of things, when I'm grieving to allow myself to grieve. And like Laurel was saying, not give yourself a hard time when you can't sleep is so important because the brain's already signaling danger. So I want you to try and remember that when you're having difficulty sleeping, you can ask your brain, what is it that you're protecting me from? Is it something emotional? Okay, check in with yourself. Then the next one is the mental. So this is the one where we're stressed, where we're depressed, where we're anxious, where we have the racing thoughts, we're full of fears, we're overthinking, all this is going on, okay? And they can become a habit. We can get into a habit of overthinking, of constantly being anxious, constantly being in fear, right? Constantly stressed. But we don't seem to link the two together that could be why I'm not sleeping. That plays a big part because the brain, when you have those racing thoughts, and usually our racing thoughts are negative, okay? When we're having the fears, experiencing the fears and the anxious thoughts, the stress, the depressed feelings, all of those are signaling danger to the nervous system, causing it to be in this hyperaroused state. So for the nervous system, is there is a bear in my room. So no, you can't go to sleep while there's a bear in your room. Okay, so you've got to deal with that, deal with those racing thoughts, deal with those fears and the stress. Okay. The third one, which played a big part for me, was physical. So when I had insomnia, chronic insomnia for 17 years when I was sick, every night I did not sleep, right? I was lucky to kind of grab an hour or two maybe sometimes. But I'd be tossing and turning all night. My husband used to tell me I was like a chook on a rotisserie. I'd be going round and round and round and round, tossing like that all night. And of course, keeping him awake as well. So it was a big, big problem. But I was in pain, physical pain. That's why I couldn't sleep. It wasn't so much all the other things, but it was my physical pain that was keeping me away. So physical is the third one, and when we get hot, when we get cold, I mean, I don't know who's been through menopause. I certainly have. That will keep you awake, right? When you're hot, when you're cold. So these physical issues, sometimes that racing heart, a lot of people say, oh, just wake up. And my heart's racing. That's the adrenaline dump, right? Blood sugar. A lot of people are woken up by low blood sugar because they're not eating well throughout the day. So you've got to look at those physical things and tick them off, right? Deal with the pain, deal with the heart racing, deal with the blood sugar, deal with your hot and cold. And yeah, so they mainly the physical things that I can think of. Is there anyone else who's had physical issues that keeps them awake at night? Anyone like to share?
I just wanted to say that I can relate to the hot flashes with the perimenopause and menopause because
Yeah.
I had couple years or so that those were really bad. They'd wake me up a
Mhm.
lot, and then your brain
Yes.
gets going, and you can't go back to sleep.
A vicious cycle, isn't
Yes.
it? I was very lucky. I went in, I had a very good uh, what do you call them? The integrative doctor, female.
Yep.
She specialized in women's hormones. And I just went straight to her, got the saliva hormone testing done, and straight on to the natural progesterone. And I was, rode through menopause reasonably well, reasonably well. I was still quite sick at the time, so I had a lot to deal with. But yeah, perimenopause quite early, and then into menopause, and then out. And then recently, with long COVID, I had long COVID for 12 months, used these same tools to recover from that. And I had temperature regulation issues with that as well. So I found myself feeling like I was back in menopause, but I knew it wasn't. I knew it was just long
Yeah.
COVID. So, yeah, yeah. So so here we are. There's four things, okay, which are creating this hyper aroused nervous system where the brain thinks there's a bear in my room, okay, and it's keeping that danger response on. So when we don't sleep, these are the things that we try and tick off. What's my brain trying to tell me? There's a bear in my room. Watch out, right? Could it be something emotional that I didn't deal with throughout the day? And now I can process it. I can lie here for a minute and process those emotions now. Could it be, I'm worried about something? Is it these racing thoughts, right? If you do a body scan, nearly all of us, you'll have racing thoughts. Okay, it's just parcel of who we are as human beings. Could it be physical? Is there something physical? Am I uncomfortable in my body? Am I tense? Am I getting cramps? Is there pain, tension in my body? And again, you can use your tools, to relax your body. And I'll go through some of the tools with you. Now, the fourth one you might not have heard of. You've probably heard of all the others, The fourth one is really tricky, and most people don't know about this, but I'll let you in on a little secret what the fourth one is. The fourth one is, say there's not a lot emotional that's happening, there's not a lot mental that's happening. You feel quite calm, feel quite okay, nothing really bothering you too much. Everything in your body's fine, but there's something else that's keeping you awake. Now, what could that be? The thing that we operate from 98% of the time, but we all forget, and that's the unconscious. So there's something in my unconscious that's keeping me awake. And guess what they are? Our memories, right? Our memories. So nearly everyone that I work with a sleep issue, when we go through each one of these, most of them are not aware of this unconscious one. Now, for example, one woman I worked with, she was having a shocking time and she had to go to work every day. You know, she's got to get up and go to work. She's dragging herself through the work. She's fairly young, but relentlessly her brain, danger, danger, no, you can't go to sleep. There's something dangerous. So we ticked off each one of those things. She had a bit of a racing mind, not too bad. But all the other things ticked off, nothing really happening in her body. So we went to the unconscious. So I asked her, do you recall any experiences where you may have been, even as a child, you may not have been able to sleep for some particular reason? And this is just one story. I can tell you many, many stories like this. But the one that her brain gave her was when she was a little girl, her parents had separated. And when she'd go to stay with her father, he would sneak out through the night to go and visit other women. And she had someone in the home was caring for her. He had what we call house helpers, I guess, or servants, whatever you like to call them. And she would see him through the night. She'd wake up, she'd hear something, and she'd see him walking off. And it wasn't until, of course, she got older that she found out what it was. So she would lay in bed, wide awake, waiting for her father to come back home because she wouldn't feel safe that he wasn't in the house. She'd already been through the trauma of the parents separating. So that was playing on her mind. She was already not feeling safe. And here he is sneaking off, and she would lie awake and waiting for him. So now, once we address that memory and the emotions that she felt, how unsafe she felt, and how scared she felt, and how angry she was towards her father, she released all those emotions, and we were able to change the story. Like you, Laurel, she was able to then just look back at that from her adult perspective. The child needed healing back then. You know, the child needed comfort and consoling. And once she did that, sleep wasn't a problem anymore. And she'd been everywhere. She'd been to see everyone. She tried everything. I was kind of her last hope. So other practitioners that she'd been to had sort of looked at these other three things, but not this unconscious part, which is 98% of who we are and how we function in the world comes from the unconscious. Okay. Another person I was working with, she had a memory of when she was a little girl, and and something had triggered. She'd been sleeping okay, but something had triggered her, and it was emotional. So she had some emotions that she hadn't processed, and then her brain was just keeping her awake, saying, "You're in danger, you're in danger, you're in danger." Now, the memory that her brain gave her was that when she was a little girl with her parents, they were away on holiday, they were staying in a motel or hotel or somewhere. And then in the middle of the night or early hours of the morning, suddenly there was glass breaking, there was yelling and screaming and people shouting at each other. And her parents got up. Of course, she woke up, and her parents, they looked out the window, and there was a big brawl happening outside their window. People fighting, drunk, shouting at each other, yelling at each other, throwing bottles around. And that terrified her. She was so scared. And even though she was there with her parents, she said she remembers just staying awake the whole night because she didn't know what was happening out there. Because next thing you know, the police sirens were going off, and it just went on for hours, this whole experience. So her brain was triggered by that because she works in the school, and there was a big brawl in the school with some students, and that triggered her brain because that memory hadn't been fully processed. Her brain thought that she was still back there, but it was the children who were brawling and fighting and yelling and shouting. That's what triggered it. So sometimes this can happen as well. Okay. And if you don't understand, oh, my brain, for some reason, it's telling me it's in danger, it's trying to protect me. But the memory was way back there. The trigger was, so this is the other thing you need to think about if you're not sleeping, is what could have been the trigger? Am I worried about something or someone? Am I sad about something? Did something just happen? Did someone say something to me? And now, I'm still thinking about that. I'm still worried about that, still sort of overthinking that. So see if you can track it back to the trigger. And then if you understand the memory part, you can access the memory and process that memory as well. Okay. So there are the four things that we need to really be aware of. Okay. So here we are. The brain is either predicting or protecting. Now, most of what we talked about there was the protective part of the brain. Okay, it's protecting us, telling us, hey, you need to deal with that emotion that you didn't process, it's still bothering you. Yeah, you need to deal with that stress. Now, that stressful situation that you're experiencing, you need to deal with these racing thoughts that you have that are creating overwhelm in your system. So the brain's so this the predicting part is the interesting part. Now I've experienced this a lot with clients, particularly the ones who are quite anxious. So if you have experienced a lot of anxiety, anxious thoughts, anxious feelings, your brain has a way of predicting that you're not going to sleep. So I don't know if there's anybody here who can share their experience with sleep anxiety, but a lot of sleep anxiety is we're thinking about we're not going to go to sleep well before we go to bed, right? So we've had our dinner, we've done whatever we're doing, and as soon as we start thinking about going to bed, the fear starts rising with this people who are very anxious about going to sleep. So it becomes a habit, and we start thinking that we're not going to sleep well before we go to sleep. So the brain then senses that prediction, right? Oh, she's really scared of going to sleep. There's something about sleeping that she's really scared about, so we better keep her awake. Okay, that's how the brain's perceiving it. She's in danger. She's in danger. She's in a lot of fear. She must be in danger. We've got to protect her by keeping her awake. Okay. So does that make sense? And then it becomes a conditioned response, right? Becomes that conditioned response with Dr. Schubner talks about a lot. Okay. And our job is to try and process what's going on there to help that conditioned brain, to help that predictive part of our brain unlearn it. Now, how do we do that? Okay. Number one, Laurel gave us some great examples of what she uses, and the examples that she gave, um, Laurel, they were all sending safety messages to the brain. Right. So again, like all the neuroplastic conditions, including ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, all these conditions are all neuroplastic. We know that now. And the way to help our brain is to consistently send messages of safety to the brain. So Laurel said that she memorizes Psalms from the Bible, and you visualize them and they help you. That's definitely sending safety messages to the brain. I'm imagining, Laurel, that these Psalms are calming, are loving, are compassionate. Yes? Beautiful. You're welcome to share one with us if you want to. It's up to you, because they always help somebody else.
Uh,
Uh,
one of my go-tos is Psalm 23.
Can you tell us what that is? Are you happy to share that?
Sure. Sure. You want me to say it?
Mm,
Okay. It
please.
goes, it goes, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still water. He restoreth my soul. He leads me on paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Amen.
So when to memorize Psalms, I have to visualize them to memorize them.
Well, as you were saying it, I don't know how many of you there are very visual, but I was very much visualizing it. Each, every word almost, I was getting pictures, green
Yeah,
pastures of the oil anointing me, of the table,
yeah.
everything. Yeah, yeah. And how did that feel? That's the most important thing, how it feels when you say it. Do you drop
Feels,
into a
yeah.
feeling?
It's just so comforting because
Mm,
I just feel like God is so close to me when I'm um saying the psalm, like it's a prayer.
yes,
And
yes,
I can like visualize him as my shepherd and you know, having me lay down in a green pasture. And I even like visualize the pasture and feel how the grass would feel when I'm laying
yes,
down in it.
yes. And smell, bringing
Yeah,
all the senses, what you can
right.
see, what you can smell, what it feels like.
Yeah,
Really, really important. Yes.
yeah.
And that feeling of safety because he is there with you.
Yes, yes.
I often say that to people, who's your safe person? Who's your
Hmm.
safe person in your life? Bring them in with you. When you don't feel safe, you bring them with you to be there with you. Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
that's wonderful. And then
Yeah.
you also mentioned you use the 478 breathing,
Yep.
and several other people as well here. And again, my number one go to when I notice that I'm awake, the first thing I do is I do a body scan. So I'll just close my eyes and do a body scan and just notice what's happening in my body. And I check in with those four things. I ask myself, or I ask my brain to help me, is there something that I'm worrying about that's keeping me awake? Is there something I'm stressed about? Is there something I haven't processed? And I check in with my body. Am I discomfort anywhere? Is there tension anywhere? And I'll breathe. If I notice anything in my body, I'll breathe into that part and relax that part. Okay. There's a really good exercise that I use, which you do the body scan, and then you tense each part of your body and release it as you're breathing it. Okay, so that's one. You can start at your toes, so you squeeze them, breathe as you're doing it, and then release them and work your way up all the way to the top. And that helps to completely relax the body if it's a body based problem, if it's that physical thing. If it's um, you're too hot and you're too cold, of course, you're going to do something about that, practical. Okay. If it's blood sugar, low blood sugar, which often people don't realize is happening, you need to get up and have something to eat. Okay. That's why often I have guests staying with me here, and sometimes I'll hear this rustling in the middle of the night, and I think, oh, is that a mouse? But it'll be the guest. They've had to get up and have something to eat because they haven't had a really good, nourishing, protein meal before they went to bed. So their blood sugar's dropped and they're looking for food. And usually the problem is that they go for the chocolates or sweets or something like that, which then sends the blood sugar up and plummeting again. So if that's an issue, look at it and address it. Okay. But mostly you will wake up and you're like, why the heck I can't get back to sleep? Check in on those four things, right? And that fourth one, which really should be the first one, is I wonder what I have still left that I haven't processed, right? Which for me, the most recent was those dreams I was having of getting lost. And once I address that, using my memory reprocessing tools, that's not a problem now. All right. So um, definitely the breath. And so then what I do is I do the body scan, address anything physical, and then I'll just go to my breath. Use whatever breathing technique that you like to use, whether it's 478, whether it's square breathing, whether it's just breathing in and out. Okay. Some people like to breathe and hum. That depends if you're sleeping with someone and that's going to keep them awake. If you're on your own, you could probably breathe and hum. Sometimes I do breathing and tapping. So I'll just be tapping here on my collarbone very gently. And at the same time, so I'll be breathing. And when you're doing the breathing, immediately that hyper aroused nervous system starts to come down, right? Just by doing the breathing alone. When you add the tapping, and at the same time I'm tapping, I'm doing the self talk, which is the other thing, Laurel, that you were saying that you used, and the self talk that I use is self soothing, self self-comforting, self-compassion. Now, what I would encourage you all to do that part, write yourself a script of self-comforting things you can say to yourself to get yourself back to sleep. So it might be things like, my brain knows how to sleep. I fall asleep easily and I wake up regenerated, rested, revitalized. Okay, so write yourself out a script that you keep just for that time. Might be on your phone, it might be on your fridge, whatever it is. Have once you practice them a few times, you've got your own sleep script. They'll just roll off your tongue like mine does. I don't ever go back to my list now. I just have them in my head and I just speak to myself, it's okay, Lolita, you're all right. You can just go back to sleep now, just like you would when you're soothing your child, when they wake up and there's a monster under their bed. You comfort them, be kind to them, loving to them, rock them. Another really nice one to do while you're just lying in bed is the butterfly hug. Butterfly hug, just lie there under your covers and soothing yourself, even rocking if you can, soothing, comforting. You're okay, you're safe, you're not in danger, you can fall asleep easily, you know how to sleep, everything's going to be okay. All right. Anybody else have any um, tools that they use to help them sleep, to help them to send these safety signals back to the brain, to let the brain know? So we're rewiring the brain. So if we have an ongoing sleep issue, like Laurel, it doesn't sound like yours is a big problem because it's just now and again you're awake for an hour and then you've got these tools, you can get yourself back to sleep. Okay.
Yeah, I've had long COVID for a little over 4.5 years,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
and during one year there were a few weeks kind of scattered where I'd wake up with there just really bad adrenaline dumps. And that's when I would do learn Psalms and do that because that seemed to help me the most. And I would get up and walk around some, but
Yes.
um but yeah,
There's
it
one,
was scary. And now that I'm over that, I'll wake up and I'll be awake for a couple hours. Um but you're right, it's not consistent. It's more scattered now. So
yeah.
I've definitely improved with it.
Well done, well done. And I'm sure
Yeah.
those tools that you've been using have helped with
Yes.
that.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm sorry to hear. I can absolutely relate to long COVID. 12,
Yeah.
12 months I've had like 30 different symptoms. And
Yes.
finally at the tail end of it, I'm over it now. The one thing
Mm.
that I've learned about long COVID is because we've had that initial virus,
Yeah.
the brain, um, our brain, our cells in our body speak to each other by using cytokines to protect
Okay.
us. Okay, so the cells release the cytokines
Yep.
if they think there is an infection, a virus, a bacteria, anything that could be dangerous to our cells. The cells release the cytokines, and what happened during the COVID virus, it was dumping tons of these cytokines into our system. And then that was affecting all the different systems of the body. And that's why people are having, you know, going through gut problems and hormone problems and lymphatic problems and heart problems and brain problems, because it
Yeah.
just affects every system of the body. Now, what I discovered was when I had the symptoms, and there's some really good information out there, there's some really good research to back all this up, to understand this, what they call the cytokine storm that happens in
Yeah.
the body. And it
Right.
happens also with any symptoms that you're experiencing. Whenever you experience a symptom, there's a cytokine storm happening.
Hmm.
And what's been shown, and I think Wim Hof may have been the first one who sort of really explained this in ways that people could understand it. So when you have a symptom, whether it's adrenaline dump during sleep, or having difficulty breathing, the dizziness, the heart racing, any of those number of symptoms, if you can address it as soon as it happens, the moment it happens, because that's when the cytokine storm is happening, and you just go to your breath, just breathe and breathe and breathe. And he's saying sometimes you might have to do the breathing 30 times in and out, in and out. That's been shown to be the fastest way to reduce that cytokine storm that's happening
Hmm.
in the body, because the brain's going, danger, danger, danger. There's still a virus in your body. You're under too much stress. You're worrying too much. You're
Yeah.
fearful. So it's not just the viruses and bacterias and toxins that are in the body that the brain then starts to signal danger. It starts to signal danger with everything and anything. Like you
Hmm.
have a thought, it's going to do a
Yep.
cytokine dump, right? And
Yep.
so that's been how I came out of long COVID so quickly, in 12
Ah.
months. And I've had clients who've come out of it even faster than that, right? Young people who've been coming
Yeah.
to see me with long COVID, who are in and out of emergency. I had, one young girl, she wasn't going to work anymore. She couldn't drive anymore. She couldn't go out with friends and be social anymore. It was just hideous for her. And
Yeah.
she'd been battling and battling with the doctors because they don't have a clue. They just kept telling her
Yes,
that she had anxiety.
that's right.
And
Yeah, that's the same thing
right,
I've gone through. Yep.
me too. Me too. Never
Yep.
experienced a day of anxiety in my life, right?
Yeah.
Apart from just normal, nervous system
Right.
activation. I've never experienced anxiety in my life. And
Yeah.
and yet here I am, somebody who's just got anxiety. I don't think
Yeah.
so,
Right.
right? So I took matters into my own hands and just used these brain retraining tools, these neuroplastic tools, and recovered in 12 months. Okay.
Wow, that's great.
Combined it with other things as well. Combined it with supplements. I've got my interview coming out soon. So if you're interested in how um, I recovered in some more details of it, it'll be in that video. But yeah, so sleep has absolutely affected people during long COVID, and this is what's happening. This cytokine storm that happens, and the key is to address it in the heat of the moment. Okay, as the brain signaling danger, you let the brain know, respond, sending a safety signal to the body. And that goes for all your symptoms, whatever symptoms that you have. Okay. All right. Any questions before we finish up? All good.